Hey, fellow mathers, welcome to the podcast where math is figureoutable.
We're popping in here real quick to share that we'll be hosting another Math is Figureoutable challenge.
Whoo!
Registration's not open yet, but we'll let you know when it is. The best way to get all the information is to join our newsletter.
So you can join our newsletter at www.mathisfigureoutable.com/get-newsletter. That's mathisfigureoutable.com/get-newsletter.
Mark your calendars now. The challenge will run from May 14th to May 16th. Join the email list at www.mathisfigureoutable.com/get-newsletter to get all the details.
Hey, fellow mathers, welcome to the podcast where math is figureoutable. I'm Pam Harris, a former mimicker turned mather.
And I'm Kim Montague, a reasoner who now knows how to share her thinking with others. At Math is Figureoutable, we are on a mission to improve math teaching.
We know that algorithms are amazing human achievements, but they're really not very good teaching tools because they're really not very good, really good. I think I said really 4 times in that sentence. Because mimicking step-by-step procedures can actually trap students into using less sophisticated reasoning than the problems are intended to develop.
In this podcast, we help you teach mathing, building relationships with your students, and grappling with mathematical relationships.
We invite you to join us to make math more really figureoutable.
Really? Is it more than just
Really?
figureoutable?
I mean, really. It's just like really is on my mind today for some reason.
Yeah.
Hey, Kim.
Yeah, hi. How are
Hey,
you?
it was kind of fun to see you.
I know!
Like we actually got to hang in person.
People probably think we see each other in person more than we do,
Yeah.
which is not true. I mean, it's very rare these days.
I know, crazy. But it was super fun. It's good.
Does Zoom count? I see you every day on Zoom.
I know, so that's not in person. That's the definition of not in person Zoom. Yeah, so we actually got to hang out together because we had the opportunity to, what do they call that? A preview? Not a preview showing.
It's like a special showing. It's like a screening. It was a screening. A special
There we go.
screening.
It was a screening of the documentary called Counted Out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dana Center, for putting it on here in the Austin area. And we were able to score some tickets. And it was fantastic. We got to drive all the way through Austin traffic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which meant we get to talk a lot because we talked all the way up and all the way back.
I don't know how I first heard about it. It was, I mean, it's been a long time. I know it's been out for a couple of years now, but I heard about it randomly, or I saw a thing and I was like, oh, I'm going to see this. And I've watched the preview several times and I've heard people talk about it. That they don't have very many screenings. So it was kind of
weird.
Kind of cool that we got a chance to do it. Yeah.
I appreciate you kind of pushing that and getting us there. Lots of good people in the film. We love Dan Finkel, Math for Love. Super well spoken. He did a great job.
Yeah.
Kareem Eni, who I hope I didn't slaughter your name. I really appreciate the way that he writes the tasks that he does. I think he does such a good job of
You've talked
coming
about
at
him for a while.
Yeah, coming at an issue from both sides and using mathematics to suggest that we can actually have a much better conversation if we come at these really difficult, subtle issues from both sides with mathematics.
Yeah.
So I think he does a really good job with that. Joe Boaler was on there. Eugenia Chang, who I think is funny, and I really enjoy listening to her as well. And Bob Moses, who was a pioneer in helping us think differently about teaching algebra. I was heavily influenced by his work when I began teaching his algebra project and how he really talked about how we could use or how algebra is a gatekeeper and we could really use it to help kind of erase the gate. Yeah, he had some amazing work and it was really amazing to hear from him on the film. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to see.
Among others. There were others. Those are
Yeah. And it was fun because we got to see some of those people you mentioned interact with students. So they're putting their practice in action, and just to have them reflect on the journey that they've been on and why they do what they do has been really cool. So let's talk, I don't want to steal too much from the documentary because I really do hope that people push to get to go see it. It should be seen by all. But let's talk a little bit about the content of the movie. So don't give too much away, but I'm going to start. Okay. And I found it fascinating that one of the things they did, I love statistics. And so they shared a bunch of statistics and they also talked a lot about algorithms and the role that algorithms play in ways that we're not aware of and in some of the choices that are being made for people's lives. And so they talked about gerrymandering and they talked about I can't remember the percent. I should know this, but a portion of, I think you said 75%
I think it was 75%.
of
Yeah.
of of college entrance choices are made by an algorithm, or at least the first look at them. And I
Mhm.
find that interesting that, I went to college a
A few
minute
years
ago,
ago? Just a few years
and
ago? Huh?
like the idea that human eyes are reading the essays and getting a feel for the student. When you say 75% of the entrance is
Decision?
chosen by, yeah,
Mhm.
the decisions made by an algorithm, that really matters. Every word you say, everything you click, probably more so than ever, because you can't get a good feel for the person. They also shared a story of a man, I can't remember his name. I'm going to get the word wrong.
Mhm.
Recidivism rates, and how an algorithm helps determine whether they get on parole or not, whether they're
Mhm.
paroled. And there's all these different factors that play. And what it doesn't do necessarily, based on what I heard, is that it doesn't take into account some of the things that they do and the changes they've made as a person. A lot of it is based on the age that you went to jail, and like your
Well, and I
like
think he was even suggesting that sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead. Yeah. There's
That
all of these factors that play, but may not still play in your life at the time that you are up
coming
for
up for
parole.
parole.
Yeah.
And I think part of the main point of the film was that we don't actually know what is going
Right.
into the algorithm because it was a proprietary process
Uh-huh.
that they had purchased it from an outside company. And so they couldn't actually even tell you what the algorithm was, that it was figuring out that he got denied parole and
Yes.
who gets denied and why. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's part of, well, I'll talk about a little bit later. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't know what's going into it, and you can't do anything to work on it, then a decision is being made about the rest of your life
Yeah.
that really doesn't look at you as a person. So I found, they gave a couple of examples. I found his story very interesting. Yeah. I'm still thinking about it.
Better. All right, Kim, what was your, without giving you more spoilers, maybe? I don't know if that's
Oh
possible.
gosh,
We
I
didn't,
don't know.
what was your biggest takeaway? If you had to like walk out and somebody said, hey, what was that all about? What was your biggest takeaway?
Well, it was relating to the conversation that we had on the way home. We
Mm.
we immediately got in the car, separate cars, and called each other to talk. And I remember you said something about, this is great, and then but like, how, like, if you watch this and you already believe kind of what you and I believe about change and about the way math classes should run,
Mhm.
like, how does that help? And
How does this movie
how does
help?
this movie help, right? How does
Yeah.
this documentary help
Yeah.
anyone? And I think I said something like, it's about awareness, that if more people had the opportunity to see this kind of documentary, first of all, they would be aware that our world has more math than they realize, and that choices are being made based on that.
Mhm.
It also, beyond just creating awareness, this documentary invites you to say, okay, now what? Like, what do we do about it? And even if people don't have the answer, if more people, parents, like any stakeholder, kids, if anyone said, wait a second, like, we've got to do something about the fact that so many people in America, across the world, are math illiterate, innumerate. We need to make some sort of massive change. Like, I think there are a handful of people, a small percentage of the population, who are saying that,
Mhm.
but not enough to make lasting change. And so I think this, as an awareness campaign, is super important. We also then took the conversation to start saying things like, once beliefs are shift, then then impactful change can happen. But typically what happens is some people say, this is what needs changed, now go do this, and they try to tell people, do it this way, do it that way. And I try really hard to be careful about that, and I know I don't always do it well, but it starts with shifting beliefs and creating awareness so that people are all in on the change that needs to be happening. So we talk a lot about shifts that need to happen in schools and districts and classrooms based on the standards that were already being handed. Like, a state will say, these are the things that you need to be teaching at this grade level. And then we do a lot of work to say, how do we do that well? But there's also a lot of people who are doing work saying, but that's not what math class even has to be about, that there are other areas of math and there's other, um,
Pathways.
yeah, there's more math than even what we say are the standards that happen in a grade level. And I think that both kinds of shifts need to happen, that we open up our math classes to say it's not just about addition, subtraction, fractions, but we can also do that work better. We can do the work that is already a part of the standards that we're supposed to be doing currently even better than what we're doing.
Yeah, like what does it actually mean to reason about the things in those standards the way mathy people reason about them,
Mm-hmm.
not just figure out, ooh, how do we rote memorize and mimic this stuff,
Yeah.
because that's not mathing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, interesting. One of the things that you were talking about, the idea of people really understanding first the issue, I think is super important. And I think part of your point is we need to help people just be aware that this is an issue. And I wonder if I would add into that, maybe there's somebody out there that could see that maybe they could go, huh, maybe I could pursue my
Yeah.
dream. Maybe I can do math too. Maybe
Yeah.
there's some help I could get and I could go and do what I actually wanted to do and not let my previous experience in fake math affect limiting my dreams. Hopefully
Oh,
that would be yes.
somebody in our teacher Facebook group, oh gosh, I'm going to not remember her name. Somebody in our teacher Facebook group just made a comment recently and said, I posted something about what is a picture or a phrase that's causing you to have like hope for the future of education.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people left comments, and one person said something about how she was a special education teacher and failed college math 4 times. And it was just like, oh my gosh, here's another. Like, we have people who are just keeping at it, keeping at it, keeping at it. And then they have the experience of making math meaningful for students and for people around them and helping them understand that it's not like a one and done. Like, you can understand math is figureoutable.
Yeah, math is figureoutable. Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I like
Okay,
it.
what's
Yeah.
yours? What takeaway do you have?
Yeah, so I think there was a lot, but a lot of times people will say, yeah, I don't really use math. I'm not good at math. I didn't do math. I don't really use math in my real life. I don't see math around me. It's not whatever. One of the points of the documentary was math is everywhere. And I believe it was Ben Bloom-Smith who said, I'm not just saying that in a way where your teacher goes, math is everywhere, but I actually mean whether you see it or not, there are a lot of choices in your life, decisions in your life that are being made based on mathematics that you might not even acknowledge or realize that are happening. So for example, like social media algorithms, we know because we work a little bit with Facebook marketing a little bit. We know that there are ways that if you click on something, you can be tracked by people from Facebook on other websites. And so you might not even realize that the ads that are showing up for you on Facebook or Instagram or pick your social media channel are actually being targeted to you because of things that you're clicking on in the app, but also out of the app, depending on the kinds of cookies that you've left and the permissions that you've given websites and everything. Your history of where you click is more out there than you might know. And therefore, the news that you get fed could very well be hyper influenced because there are algorithms out there that are tracking what you're looking at. And so we actually have gotten to a place where a lot of people could be only seeing, especially if they're only getting their news on social media, they could only be seeing a certain take on the news. And that I was just speaking with several people when I was in Europe about politics, and it was very fascinating to me that as we would share kind of quote unquote facts that we knew, they would say no, it was this way, and I would say, yeah, what news outlet are you listening to? And they would say, well, the news.
Yeah,
The
the
news.
news.
Yeah, and so if you don't realize that those algorithms could be, well, not could be, that they're impacting the kinds of things that are showing up in your feed, that impacts what you do. You mentioned earlier gerrymandering. So how do we set up voting districts? It's all based on mathematics. There was a Supreme Court case that the movie mentions that had some things to do with mathematics, and how the justices handled the math was a little bit troubling. Lots of different traffic patterns. So my father-in-law actually dealt with a signal. So like when the traffic signal goes on and off and how those are timed. I read a novel not too long ago. It was a YA novel. It was kind of interesting. People were using an app on their device that would do things like many of us use today for GPS. It tells you the route to take. This particular app would do things like tell you the route to take and the time to leave and the food to eat. And it was all you had sort of downloaded your genetic information and everything, and it would give you the best way to do things. Well, of course, in the novel, nefarious people took over the algorithms, and so it was leading people to do things not because it was in the people's best interest, but because it was in some other foreign entity's best interest. And it was this whole nefarious thing where they had to, of course, take down the computers at the end. The point is, what happens in your life that right now is being controlled by mathematics? Like all behind this technology is mathematics, not to mention AI and the large language models and the things that are happening with things like ChatGPT. Everything behind that is mathematics. And I really appreciated at one point, Ben Bloomsmith said something like, I'm not going to quote you exactly, Ben, sorry, I'm going to get it as best I can. But he said, I really want you to be able to not get taken advantage of because you don't know the math. When someone says, oh, you don't need to worry about that, there's math behind it, don't worry about it. He wants you to be able to go, I can hang with you. Like, tell me the math. Like, I want to get involved and understand what's happening, because you're not then just letting other people through those algorithms make decisions for you. You have the confidence that you're not going to be taken advantage of because you don't know the math. And I thought that was just a really interesting thing for us to all consider, how much, even if we don't think we do math every day, there's a lot of mathematics that's influencing our lives.
Yeah, and we want that for other people, and we hope that they want that for themselves, right? That they go like, this is achievable. I can know enough and I can hang with the conversation that I'm not counted out, right? Like I think that was the whole point, is I'm not counted out of the conversation because I don't have enough math. And I think that, kind of dovetails with what we want, that we support students who understand math and who have experiences, even at a very young age, that help them be a part of the conversation. And it's, we have some people in our implementation support who work with adults who were left out of the conversation in elementary, middle, high school, but they want to be a part of it. And they are doing fantastic work with adults who need to become more numerate and are, putting in the effort, and they have great teachers and they're making things happen.
Yeah, we really appreciate those we work with who work with adult learners. We love all the teachers we work with. Those who work with adult learners, I think, have a special calling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of fun at the end. One of the things was that the Dana Center then asked some questions, some discussion questions. We actually got to chat with a university freshman who was there. She gave us permission to talk a little bit about what she shared with us. We kind of asked her about her experience, and she said she actually had a horrible experience with mathematics all throughout school, except one teacher. And one teacher had really made a difference. We asked her for an example of the horrible, and she said that she had a sixth grade. Well, I think it all started maybe in sixth grade.
Yeah.
When the year started with not a good teacher who then left. And then she had a substitute for several months who then left. And then she had a new teacher come in who was just terrible and talked about money the whole time. Not like money helpful in a helpful way, but like in a weird kind of, I have money kind of way. Yeah. Anyway, some weird thing. And she's like, yeah, then I just sort of didn't learn anything that year. And it was kind of bad from there, except one teacher who really made a difference because that teacher knew the math and was really passionate about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we are passionate about math. Like we talk about it with excitement. We are interested. And, I think that I often think about the classrooms that I get to visit. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do is visit classrooms. And there's just a difference between a teacher who's excited about their subject and a teacher who's like, okay, I have to do the thing. It creates a different tone. It creates a different feeling. And I'm not saying you have to like pick math as your number one hobby, but the more that you know about your content, the more excited you can be, the more it doesn't feel daunting. It doesn't feel like this is so hard. Like
drudgery.
Yeah. I mean, and if you start off not loving your subject, but then you have to do the subject and you bump into some difficulty along the way, it just like that comes out. Um,
Well, and maybe I could suggest if anybody's listening right now going, yeah, it really isn't my hobby and it's not my favorite thing. I'm not sure I have passion about it. Let me suggest a passion that you probably do have that you could pull out and make shine during your math time. I bet you could be very passionate about knowing how your students are thinking. I bet you could be super passionate about your interest in knowing how they're reasoning about stuff, how they're thinking and reasoning and using relationships. I bet you could get your psyche wrapped around, ooh, like how are you thinking about that? And then like really being super interested in how your students are thinking. That's a great place to
yeah.
start.
And I would bet that there's some passion that happened early on for students and for teachers that was maybe killed by the traditional pathway that we take, that it's, stand up there and say the things and kids practice it. There's like not a lot to be passionate about there, maybe.
Mm.
That when you are interested in your students thinking and like you see that growth and you engage in conversation. One of the things that I loved was that they had this, I don't think it was a passion project that these students did. They had a couple of weeks. The kids got to ask a question, any question under the sun. And one kid, I'm not going to say what it was, but one kid had a very interesting off
Are you
the
sure?
wall. No,
We can't.
we have to
Oh.
stop telling all the details. Very, very interesting, funny, hilarious question. And then they were set forth to answer the question. And these kids were like, first of all, I had to think about what the question would be. And what do I need to find out to answer the question mathematically? And like, how do I go about finding out
What are the
the answer?
variables
And
involved? Uh-huh.
yeah. And so they did all this work and then they presented their findings and all the math that they used. And, my personal kid is doing a passion project in one of his classes right now. And they just spend a little bit of time working on that kind of all throughout the year. And he lights up. He's like a different kid when he talks about his passion project because he got to have all the choices.
Nice.
And it's really cool. Yeah. I would love to dive on that if I were in the classroom right now.
Super cool.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've probably spoiled all the things.
We did not. We really.
did.
We told
We
you.
did.
Now then we told you parts of the. It's definitely worth watching. There's a whole lot more.
Oh,
in that.
100%. Yeah. There's
Okay.
there's a ton. I mean, it was like at least an hour, 40 minutes, right?
And for sure, be listening for this kid's passion project, because you'll crack up about the question that
Yeah.
he answered. It's pretty funny.
So I'm just like super excited that this documentary was created. I hope it is widespread and lots of people get to say it or get to see it because there's really such a need to create this awareness. And these really, really good people that you mentioned, like obviously did a lot of work to
Make it a good thing.
make it a good thing and help
Yeah.
inform people. And you mentioned before, but I'm going to mention it again, that one of the people who advised and did work on this project was Joe Boaler.
Yeah, and we are super excited that Joe has accepted our invitation to be our guest on our upcoming Math is Figureoutable challenge. You are not going to want to miss this. I am thrilled that we're going to be able to have her on and share with us some of the new work that she's been doing and her new book, Math-ish, and we're going to chat about all the things. Super, super excited. Y'all, if you have not been involved in one of our challenges, we just get on the website, find out when we're doing the next challenge. But if you're listening when this podcast drops, it's happening soon, but at the end of January. So make sure that you get part of that.
I think registration is actually opening today. Today.
When the podcast drops, it's going to be opening. All right. Well,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah. So, hey, get involved in the Math is Figureoutable challenge. I can't tell you, Kim, as I travel around, one of the most often things that I hear is people will say, yeah, I took your challenge. It was so great. And that is a super good way for you to learn more, get re-energized or keep your energy up. We love it. And we're super excited that Joe is going to be one of our guests on the upcoming challenge.
Exciting.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in and teaching more and more real math. To find out more about the Math is Figureoutable movement, visit mathisfigureoutable.com. Let's keep spreading the word that math is figureoutable. Y'all, thank you for listening and making math more figure-outable.
Remember, we'll be opening registration for the Math is Figureoutable challenge soon. Mark your calendars from May 14th to 16th.
Hop on our email list to get all the details. Sign up at mathisfigureoutable.com/get-newsletter. We'll see you there.